Once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom where mountains touched the sky and forests whispered with secrets, there lived a queen who longed for a child. One winter's day, as she sat sewing by the window, she pricked her finger on the needle. 3 drops of blood fell on the snow upon the sill, and the queen sighed, "Oh, how I wish for a daughter with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony." Not long after, her wish was granted. She gave birth to a baby girl so beautiful that everyone in the kingdom marveled at her. The child was named Snow White. But joy soon turned to sorrow, for the queen died shortly after her daughter's birth. The king, who could not rule alone, later married again. The new queen was strikingly beautiful, but her heart was filled with vanity and pride. She owned a magic mirror, and every day she would ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" The mirror, bound to speak the truth, always answered, "You, my queen, are the fairest of all." This pleased her greatly, for she could not bear the thought of anyone surpassing her beauty. Years passed, and Snow White grew into a young woman whose beauty shone brighter than the morning sun. Her gentle heart, kindness, and grace made her beloved by everyone she met. One day, when the queen asked her mirror the same question, the answer changed. The mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair. It is true. But Snow White is fairer than you." The queen's face twisted with rage. Jealousy burned in her like fire. She could not allow anyone, not even her stepdaughter, to outshine her. Consumed by envy, she summoned a huntsman and ordered him to take Snow White deep into the forest and kill her. "Bring me her heart as proof," she demanded coldly. The huntsman obeyed, but when they reached the forest, he saw Snow White's innocent eyes filled with fear. His hands trembled, for he could not harm such a pure soul. "Run, my child," he whispered. "Run into the forest and never return. Hide yourself well, for the queen's wrath is dangerous." Snow White, though terrified, thanked him with tears in her eyes and fled. The huntsman, to deceive the queen, killed a wild boar and brought its heart to her. Believing Snow White to be dead, the queen felt satisfied, at least for the moment. Alone in the forest, Snow White wandered in fear, hearing the howls of wolves and the rustle of unseen creatures. Exhausted and trembling, she stumbled upon a small cottage. Inside, everything was tiny yet neat. 7 chairs, 7 bowls, 7 beds. She tasted a little food, drank a sip of water, and finally lay down on one of the small beds, where she fell fast asleep. When night fell, the owners of the cottage returned, 7 dwarfs who worked in the mines of the mountains. They lit their lamps and immediately noticed that someone had been in their home. "Who has touched my chair?" asked one. "Who has eaten from my plate?" said another. At last, they found Snow White sleeping peacefully. Her beauty amazed them, and when she awoke, she told them her story. The dwarfs took pity on her and invited her to stay. "Keep our house tidy, cook our meals, and in return, you may live here safely," they said. Snow White gratefully agreed, for she had nowhere else to go. But the queen's suspicion was not quiet for long. Again she asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" To her horror, the mirror replied, "You, my queen, are fair. It is true. But Snow White, beyond the mountain's hall with the 7 dwarfs, is fairer than you." The queen's jealousy returned with vengeance. She disguised herself as an old peddler woman and set off for the dwarf's cottage. When she arrived, she offered Snow White a bright silk lace. "Let me lace your bodice, child, so it fits you better." Trusting the kind-looking woman, Snow White allowed it. But the queen pulled the lace so tight that Snow White collapsed, gasping for breath. The queen fled, certain her rival was dead. When the dwarfs returned, they found Snow White lying pale and still. Quickly they loosened the lace and she revived. She told them what happened, and they warned her sternly, "Do not open the door to strangers." But the queen's rage had no limits. Again she asked her mirror, and again it told her Snow White still lived. Furious, she disguised herself as a comb seller. This time she gave Snow White a poisoned comb. The moment the girl placed it in her hair, she fell unconscious. The queen laughed and vanished. Fortunately, the dwarfs returned once more, removed the comb, and Snow White awoke. They repeated their warning, Beware, for the queen will not rest until she destroys you. Yet a third time, the queen sought to end Snow White. Disguised as a farmer's wife, she brought a basket of shining red apples. One half was poisoned, the other safe. When Snow White hesitated, the queen bit the safe half and offered the poisoned side. Snow White, seeing no harm, took a bite. Instantly she fell lifeless to the ground. When the dwarfs discovered her, they wept bitterly. This time, no matter what they tried, she did not wake. Believing her truly dead, they placed her in a glass coffin, for her beauty remained untouched. Day after day they mourned her, keeping watch over the coffin in the forest clearing. One day a prince who had heard tales of Snow White's beauty came upon the dwarfs' cottage and saw the coffin. Struck by love and sorrow, he asked the dwarfs if he might take her to his castle, promising to honor her forever. Reluctantly they agreed. As the coffin was carried, one of the bearers stumbled, and the piece of poisoned apple lodged in Snow White's throat was dislodged. She gasped for air, her eyes fluttering open. The prince cried out in joy, and the dwarfs danced with happiness. Snow White, confused at first, soon understood what had happened. Grateful and alive, she accepted the prince's proposal to go with him. News of her survival reached the queen, who rushed to her mirror in fury. But the mirror declared once more, "Snow White, alive and well, is the fairest of them all." In her blind rage, the queen attended the wedding disguised, but her evil was exposed. In the end, justice was served, and the queen was banished from the kingdom forever. Snow White and the prince married, surrounded by the 7 dwarfs who had protected her with loyalty and love. And though the tale was filled with darkness and danger, it ended with light, reminding all who heard it that envy and cruelty can never defeat innocence and kindness.